Welcome to the Evalesco Healthy, Wealthy and Happy podcast. Today's episode is a first in a new series we're calling Life Transitions. Conversations designed to navigate change, especially later in life, when what used to feel familiar no longer fits. If you're listening after a divorce, separation, or loss of a partner, this space is for you. This episode isn't about having it all figured out. It's about helping you take your first steady breath and understand what rebuilding can actually look like, both emotionally and practically. I'm your host, Belinda Marley-Wallace, and today I'm joined by our senior advisor, Melody. Thanks, Mel.
Thanks for having me.
Melody's walked alongside many women during periods of loss and transition and deeply understands how disorientating this season can feel. I'd love to start by talking about that moment. Life changes, everything suddenly feels really unfamiliar. What have you seen or heard from women in those first few days or months?
I think a common emotion and reaction when they're going through that period is really a lot of uncertainty, a lot of worry about what's next and what does it mean for me. And I think also a very common emotion, whether it's divorce, separation, or whether it's losing a partner, is grief. Grief fills a big space there. And, when you lose a partner, that's understandable. It's very natural. But I think people struggle with the concept of grief around divorce and separation, because even if it is an active choice where you've said this is the right decision for me and our family, you're still losing something. And grief is really about, the realization or the knowledge that what you expected your life to look like now is taken away from you. And so bridging that is a big it's a big step to moving forward and really understanding then what's next.
What is it that surprises women the most when they're in this phase through these conversations you're having? What are you seeing is the biggest surprise in this?
I think for a lot of women, and this is varied, I think, through generations as well. So the older generations, where they, especially if they've been in a long-term relationship and haven't been as involved necessarily in the financial side of managing their partnership, that is a big surprise as to, okay, I suddenly have this big gap of knowledge trying to figure out what we have, what I need, if kids are involved or, where do I live? All of those things definitely weigh on their minds and how to make decisions around that in a really, I suppose, having the confidence to make those decisions and know that what they're doing is the right thing.
And I think it can be really simple in that they may not know how to log into their internet banking to see their accounts. Like it can be like that.
Absolutely.
And that's not uncommon from what we've seen too. So I think it's also a little bit of that they don't need to come in embarrassed about.
No, that's right. And I think it is really acknowledging that their role has been a very different role in the family. And, in their way, have supported that, building of that life, which now looks very different. Their contribution is no less than, your partner or the previous partner, the ex-partner. So it's really, I guess, coming to understand and accept that. And then say, okay, well, what's the gaps? What do I need to know now to be able to make the decisions I need to make? And so that's where, having a trusted advisor or someone to help you fulfill that gap is really important.
Is there anything that you see that they're carrying silently, that they're not verbalizing? It might come out down the track, but is there that silent weight?
Yeah, I think a lot of times there's a bit of guilt as well, regardless of who's who's at fault necessarily. But I think it's a very human thing to look at what went wrong or what could I have done differently. Obviously, with the death of a partner, that's not as ambiguous necessarily, but it's still. There is still an element of regret, I think, as well there, which can color some of those decision making or that thought process around that, what to do now. But I think it's really important that people don't try and truthfully acknowledge those emotions, because there's no right or wrong around emotions. If they are what we feel, and accept them as they are, but then think about, okay, well, what am I going to do now with that emotion?
And I think that's really key. I think I know personally when I went through divorce, there was a fear that crept in, and it was the fear of the uncertainty. The life as I knew it and what I had seen to continue changed overnight, and it was just uncertain. There was no clear path in front of me, and that was scary. It was really scary. But I think too, it's giving people that clarity. And to do that, we need to work through the emotional side of it and give them emotional awareness to be able to then have the clarity and the space once they've worked through that to then move forward.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And I think a part of that as well is it is all overwhelming. There's a lot of change happening in a very short period of time, and a lot of seemingly big decisions that need to be, you feel like you need to make the decisions one on top of the other. And you're kind of in almost a reactionary mode of, okay, and I think for, the important thing is that you have it broken down into, okay, well, this is the priority one decision we need to make right now. The other things can wait. To really, focus and hone in on, what's important to decide and take action on, and in that way that clears the headspace to then focus on the other things that come after. I guess feel like you're not overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think until you've got that space, the overwhelm, like all those emotions just stay there and they just churn round.
That's right.
So to give that clarity for it, definitely. I guess, what are you seeing that women need emotionally in this phase?
Yeah, I think a very supportive, sympathetic, I suppose, people perspective, someone in their corner, essentially, to know that they've got their best interests or the best, they want the best out of that situation for them. Because it can feel like, especially when you're enmeshed and tangled, all the relationships that you had prior, depending on whether particularly in a divorce or separation, how amicable that is, that can also have a factor in how you navigate and get the support that you need around that. So really having that person to help, I suppose, support you and guide you in a knowing that you are not in for a booby trap or being led a certain way necessarily.
Yeah, and I think that's really key, because that has to come before anything practical. And I think women especially, would come to a financial advisor thinking they're just going to get advice about what's in their bank account or what's in their super account. But the rebuild can't happen until we help them through that emotional phase. So I guess it's allowing them and giving them permission to grieve, or allowing them to work through that, I guess, fatigue that can set in as well. It can get really exhausting really quickly, and they just need to know that they've got someone to lean on.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think as well, having someone do all of the kind of the admin-y stuff, the stuff that needs to happen, but you don't have the bandwidth or the capacity to do it, to give you that additional support that then gives you the space to do more of the emotional and work through those things.
I think that kind of leads into or adds to that whole space of creating the safety and support for them. What does feeling safe look like to women?
So security, I mean, generally speaking, women are more risk averse than men. That's been shown in research. And again, coupled with that financial confidence gap and not being as familiar necessarily around investments or the types of assets they may have that may have been led by their partner. Really being able to, I suppose, get the bridge that knowledge, bridge that gap, but taking stock of, okay, well, this is where we are starting from now. This is our new starting point. Where is it that I would like to get to? So sometimes that picture may be too hard to visualize at the start. So it's more breaking it down. Okay, well, what do we want life to look like in the next 3 months? How do we want to navigate that? And then, as that gets settled and move on to the next phase and so on and so forth. And there'll be things that pop up that, supersede in terms of priorities, and some things that we go, okay, actually, we don't really need to look at this right now. So having someone to help triage those decision making really makes that pathway a little bit clearer and easier to go through.
Yeah. I think that's really key in that. And that's where our team adds a lot of value in being that trusted person and providing that professional support for them to lean on with confidence, knowing that we're in their corner, we've got their back, they've got someone there. Yeah, definitely. When it comes to then, I guess, the practical side, so we've moved through the emotional side, moving to the practical side, money, decisions around money, logistics could come up. If they've lost a partner or divorced or separated from a partner, it's logistically, what does life look like now? Day to day, where do I live? How do I live? How do I get around if they were relying on that person? So I guess that creates another level of overwhelm once we're getting into the practical phase. Where do you see women should start when it comes to this?
So I think for women who are kind of wondering what's next, sometimes, like as we just talked about, it can be hard to look really, really long term. But I guess it's a good time to really reflect on what their values are and what's important to them. So if it's supporting the kids, what does that look like? If it's being close to, their parents because they need to provide care for their parents, okay, well, what does that look like? And so it is a bit of reframing around the goals and needs that they had previously around I guess a refresh of that with the new scenario. And that I find helps anchor the decision making. And then it becomes more of a, okay, well, this is what we want to do. How do we actually make that happen? And here are the options to do that. Through this especially through a separation process, there's obviously a big change in assets and income, depending on which stage of life and so on and so forth. But it can look very, very different. And part of that insecurity around the future, or worry and concern about the future, is, how will I get my income, or how much will I need? So working with an advisor can really help build that out as well. So as you're going through that separation process and saying how, advocating for what you want or what you would like. Sometimes, you get an emotional attachment to the home. And so we find that, women typically want to stay in the home post a separation or divorce. That might not always be financially possible. And so it's really understanding what is that emotional drive or trigger, and how do we fulfill that in other ways that make more financial sense or can be worked with given what you can get out, I suppose. So yeah, you can't just divorce the financial from the emotional. It is very intertwined, but it does help to frame and give context around what is possible from a financial perspective.
Yeah, and I think that's really key in making sure, as you said, that's done one step at a time. And with some help, you can help navigate what's really important now and what can actually wait.
Yes.
And I think that's really key too. At some stage, the question comes up, and I know it certainly did for me personally, was who am I now and what do I want to do next? And that's at any life stage, because their identity has been so tied to this other person. How do you step into helping women approach that?
Again, I think it's from a just creating that space, that safe space of, okay, well, tell me what's worrying you, tell me what you really value, giving them the voice that they may not have felt they were able to speak with previously, and giving them permission to put themselves first. Because sometimes, I think we're all guilty of it as women to put ourselves at the bottom of the list, and there's always someone who will, whose needs and wants are more top of mind for everybody, for women, especially mothers. I think that's guilty of that. So I think this, being able to give voice to and put, I suppose, yourself first for once, and not feel guilty about doing that. Being able to provide that space is really important. And, having someone who's outside of the immediate situation really gives that, that clarity and that space to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's all very key, and making sure that women are aware that it's not necessarily the end. It can be just the beginning.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's really making sure that they're aware of that. So if you're listening and feeling emotionally full, overwhelmed, there's a few gentle things you can do. Not all of them, just little simple steps. And one, if that's all that you've got the capacity for, acknowledging what you're feeling makes sense, as we've spoken about. Identify one place that you feel really supported, or one place that you feel you could ask for help. And if you can't identify that, reach out to someone that can help you identify that space. And then focus on stabilizing today, this week, not in 10 years' time, as we've spoken about. Sometimes that 10 years is far too far ahead. It's okay to just be in the now. Rebuilding doesn't start with big decisions. It starts with feeling grounded again. This life transition series is about walking you through change emotionally and practically at your pace. At Evalesco, we support people during these moments by helping them turn uncertainty into clarity and overwhelm into structure. When and if you're ready. If you'd like to explore more support or resources, please feel free to jump on our website at evalesco.com.au. We've got a full podcast library there as well, with other episodes in there. Mel, thanks for joining me on today's podcast. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy a healthy, wealthy, and happy day.